Stay in touch with us on Facebook and Instagram at Younique Yet Connected.
You are now listening to episode 91. The theme for this episode is I Am Enough, Taming Life from the Shadow of Unfinished Grief. What is the deepest root of not enough? It's the paradox of the driven soul, achieving every success yet feeling a pervasive, bottomless void. When the cup of life can never be filled, you are likely carrying a grief that isn't yours. You are upholding a generational contract of scarcity.
Today we track that feeling back through generations to a child who was left utterly alone. A loss so profound, so early, it became a silent operating system for every descendant. That pre-verbal trauma shows up in your life as a choice. Do you choose the abundance and life that is waiting for you? Or do you remain loyal to the loss and scarcity that was suffered long ago? We are going to show you why you are already enough.
Welcome to Younique Yet Connected. I am Nolita Kozwa Fenton Itolokazi, the explorer of the unseen, the unheard and the untold, the space holder, seeker, and sacred witness in the work of Systemic Family Constellations. As always, I'm not alone. King Nika on the other side of the virtual. Over to you, Kings.
Thank you. Hello, Nick. Dear listeners and co-editors, this is where we explore the hidden patterns that shape our lives. I am King Osilaji, facilitator and guide through the field where unseen truths rise to the surface. Together we walk the invisible terrain of the family soul, where the wisdom that speaks is when the system reveals itself.
Thank you for joining our movement of translating the wisdom of Systemic Family Constellations into a practical language that all of us can easily understand and, most importantly, implement in our daily lives. This is the Field Knows series, where in each episode we share stories from the field that are from our workshops and individual sessions. There is a relentless feeling that haunts many of us, not enough.
It is the constant internal measurement against an impossible standard. Not enough reward, not enough effort, not enough being. This feeling acts like a veil, darkening every achievement and freezing our connection to life.
We are often trying to achieve worthiness instead of simply accepting it as a birthright. In the sacred field, we know this deep-seated sense of lack is really about your personal capacity or your current bank account.
If you feel compelled to overwork, if rest feels like betrayal, or if success feels hollow, it is an unconscious signal of an ancestral emptiness, a void created by a loss too massive for one person to carry.
The inherited message becomes, since the loss for my ancestors was so total, my gains must also be temporary or insufficient. We began this session by looking for the root. Why am I not enough?
The client defined it as a universal overall not enough that permeated her entire existence, regardless of her accomplishments. The answer was hidden in plain sight, right there on the floor of the field.
We asked the client to bring her most clear, concrete goal into the room. The representative of the goal stood before her, radiating possibility and ready to connect. Yet the client could not look up.
Her eyes were fixed downward. She was visibly disconnected from her own future. Goal wanted connection, but the client was locked in an intense, unseen gaze with something else entirely.
When we asked her what kept her head down, was it shame, fear, as such? She initially couldn't name it. She simply confirmed she could not look at the goal. The past had a stronger grip.
This refusal to look forward is the visible sign of a powerful, unresolved pull. We introduced a placeholder for what she was looking at, a simple pillow placed on the floor between her and her future.
Her confirmation was absolute. Yes, this is what I'm looking at. The unconscious finally revealed its focus. We replaced the pillow with a representative, and the client's system instantly shrank.
She physically sat down next to the person lying on the floor. She felt very small. This was the first revelation. The feeling of not enough was a loyalty to someone whose need was absolute.
She had unconsciously adopted the fate of someone who had nothing. Because they had nothing, her life felt like it could not fully receive. The cup had a hole in the bottom, leading back to the past.
The client confirmed she felt very young, almost pre-verbal, like a very small child. That gaze locked on the trauma was a deep generational yes to a forgotten loss that occurred long before her time.
By sitting on the floor with the trauma, she was trying to keep the ancestor company in their grief. She was sacrificing her own success to ensure the ancestor wasn't alone in the dark.
But the field shows us that staying in the dark doesn't bring light to the past. It only creates two shadows where there should have been one. We had to find a way to stand up.
When the field is split between the future and the past, the pull of the past is intense. The person lying on the floor represented an ancestral, unfinished grief, the fate of a child left utterly alone.
This grief was silent because there was no voice to express it. It was devastating because there was no one to hold it. It showed up in the client's life as a forced choice, remain stuck or move toward life.
The trauma was literally a physical and emotional barrier. This is the systemic truth of self-sabotage. We don't move forward because we feel we are leaving someone behind in the pain.
We began the work of separation. We spoke simple, heartfelt, healing sentences to the person on the floor. We acknowledged the terrible fate, and then the first physical shift occurred.
The client was able to lift her eyes away from the floor for the first time. The spell was breaking. The representative of goal wanted to support her, but the client wisely refused that help.
She sensed the external support would only reinforce the weakness of the small child. She needed to find her own sovereign strength internally to truly break the contract of lack.
She slowly started to come out of that small child state. She lifted herself up, standing stronger, reclaiming her adult stature. She spoke words of reclamation. I have my own strength.
This is the moment the adult self takes sovereignty. Evolution is never about erasing the trauma. It is about honoring it and then choosing to move beyond it anyway.
She stood up fully and looked directly at the goal. This wasn't just about a career objective. It was a connection with life itself. She was choosing to live the life force she was given.
As she stood, her breathing changed. The not enough energy began to dissipate because she was no longer comparing herself to a void. She was comparing herself to her own potential.
The loyalty shifted from, I will suffer with you, to, I will live for you. This is the highest form of honor we can give to those who lost everything.
The representative of the trauma also seemed to relax. When we are seen in our pain, the pain no longer needs to scream through the lives of our descendants.
The field was finally clear. The barrier on the floor no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a memory. The client's gaze was level, focused, and bright.
She was no longer a child looking for a parent. She was an adult looking for a future. The difference in her energy was palpable to everyone in the room.
We see this so often. Once the unseen gaze is directed toward the light, the body stops trembling. The system finally feels that it has permission to be successful.
The sacred choice was made. She chose life, and in doing so, she broke a chain of scarcity that had likely been rattling for 100 years. You are still listening to Younique Yet Connected. The theme for this episode is I Am Enough, reclaiming life from the shadow of unfinished grief. Remember, when you comment, ask questions, like and share our content and links, you help us grow and change lives together. Like us on Facebook and Instagram.
The goal had been achieved. The generational trauma moved out of the way as soon as the client was able to connect with her own internal strength. The deep need to be acknowledged was fulfilled.
The trauma was released, but the ultimate resolution was not spoken by the client. It came from the representative of the goal, or we can call it life itself. It was an affirmation, a declaration from the universe.
The final powerful sentence was, I am enough. I am more than enough. This message transcended the achievement of a goal. It spoke directly to her essential being.
Her life was speaking back to her. This is the heart of the healing. The struggle was never about achieving worthiness. It was about accepting that her life is inherently worthy.
Worthiness doesn't need to be earned or proven. It only needs to be accepted and lived. When she received that message, she finally released the burden of proving.
She was replaced by the peace of knowing. Her final promise closed the loop. Yes, my life is enough for me, and I promise to live it to the fullest.
This promise is a shield against the return of the not enough narrative. It is a sovereign decree. She is no longer a victim of her history. She is the steward of her future.
When we say, I am enough, we aren't talking about being perfect. We are talking about the fact that the life force in us is complete. It doesn't need addition to be valid.
The field felt expansive. The representative of life stood close to her now, no longer a distant objective, but a present partner. They were walking in step with one another.
The client's face transformed. The void in her eyes was replaced by a presence. She looked like someone who had finally come home after a very long, exhausting journey.
This integration means that rest is no longer a betrayal of the suffering. Rest is an act of honoring the peace that her ancestors were denied.
She understood that by being more than enough, she provides a new blueprint for the next generations. The contract of scarcity has been voided and replaced with the contract of abundance.
The session ended with a profound sense of quiet. There was nothing more to strive for in that moment. Everything was already there.
She turned to the trauma one last time, gave a respectful nod, and then turned her back to it. not out of cruelty, but out of necessity of moving forward.
She walked out of the field as a woman who knew her value. The shadow of unfinished grief had finally been outshone by the light of her own authority.
And for every listener today, the same light is available. You don't have to stay on the floor. You are allowed to stand up.
Reflection exercise. We want to take a moment for you, our listener. This territory requires deep introspection. We invite you to pause the noise of the outside world and listen.
Locate the loss. Where in your body do you feel that deep emptiness, the sense of lack? Is it a hunger in your stomach? A coldness in your chest? Name that feeling. Name the focus. What past sorrow or sacrifice are you unconsciously gazing at? What tragedy are you honoring by refusing to stand fully in your present life? Identify the pole. Imagine where you are currently sitting next to an old sorrow, unable to stand up. What is the sacrifice you believe you are making? The choice. Hear the sacred instruction. Your survival does not require you to remain with this grief. Your life is yours. You have permission to be happy. The movement. Visualize your brightest goal standing in front of you. If you are sitting, physically stand up now. Take one step toward the goal. Speak these words out loud or in your heart. I have my own strength. My life is enough for me. I am more than enough. Feel the relief that accompanies that movement. Feel the warmth of the adult self taking charge. You are allowed to receive.
As we close this profound exploration, remember that your achievement lies not in striving, but in simply accepting that your existence is sufficient. Your life is enough.
You have the right to look at your goals and to receive the bounty of your own life. The shadow of the past is just that, a shadow. It cannot stop you if you refuse to stare at it.
As you settle into your own rhythm this week, ask yourself, where am I withholding my full presence because I'm waiting for my worth to be proven?
What relief awaits when you finally accept the unconditional worth of your own life? If you felt something stir, a longing to meet your own full value, trust that feeling.
Join our Younique Yet Connected community because sometimes healing isn't about striving for more. It's about finally realizing that you are already enough.
Thank you for your contribution in helping us be chosen as the top 10 South Africa Family Podcast by FeedSpot. We are also thrilled to be ranked among the best 30 family therapy and best 10 family secrets podcasts by A Million Podcasts. To celebrate our growing community, join our monthly virtual connection circle every first Tuesday evening of the month. To receive your link, subscribe on our website www.youniqueyetconnected.com or check for updates on our socials at Younique Yet Connected.
In In the next episode, we will still share with you how the field reveals the roots, the repetition, and the release.
And along the way, we will guide you in understanding how this work can support your own healing, because the field doesn't just know my story, it knows yours too.
So take a deep breath, open your heart, and join us as we share with you what the field knows.
Because sometimes what you are searching for isn't outside of you, it is waiting quietly in the field for you to remember.
A big thank you to you for listening to our episode, and to Nick Mons from That Guy Productions for making us sound fabulous and on point.
For episode 92, tune in on Sunday, 5th of April 2026 from 10 a.m. South African Standard Time. For links and updates, stay tuned to our Facebook and Instagram pages at Younique Yet Connected, Younique spelled Younique.
Stay unique, stay connected, and remember, you are one of a kind. We can only create a really meaningful podcast together. Siyabulela, Kosonom, Bayadanki.
Thank you, Siyabulela, Kosonom, Bayadanki.